Now, for the Baltimore Ravens on the other end of that, this was a great game for them, and once again, the score wasn't as close as 41-31 might lead you to believe. Tampa Bay, they did score the first 10 points, but after that, I believe Baltimore went on to score 27 unanswered. So, for the Ravens, this was a great game against a pretty solid team, right? The Buccaneers, I expect to make the playoffs, or at least I was, going into this game before the injuries to those two guys in Godwin and Evans. But for the Ravens, they had a convincing win against a potential playoff team. And Lamar Jackson, especially, he was good. And not just good, he was great. And not only was he was great through the air. And for so long now, that has been the biggest knock on Lamar Jackson, is we know he can run. We know he can be a good dual threat quarterback. But sometimes he's quite limited, it seems, in his passing. But he had 5 passing touchdowns this game and did most of his damage through the air. So you'll have to see that for Lamar. Especially, when at the start of the year, especially week 1, he looked really inaccurate. But, this game he was on point. So if you're a Ravens fan, you love to see that. And another thing you would love to see is Mark Andrews. He had 2 touchdowns this game. And this was a guy who had been a really good tight end in years past, but he kind of has struggled to find his footing this year. He's also dealing with the looming threat of Isaiah Likely kind of being the top receiving tight end on that team. But Mark Andrews, he had 2 touchdowns this game, so he looks like he's getting back into form. Derrick Henry is another guy who has had, he had a slow start to the year, same way that Mark Andrews did. But Henry, while he had a bad week 1, just like Mark Andrews, he has absolutely found his footing in Baltimore. He's having a great year, and this was just another great game. He had 2 huge runs, and he was crucial for Baltimore. This is a running back who I believe is 30, and that is the point where a lot of the time, running backs in the modern NFL, they're out of the league, and Derrick Henry is still kicking it and playing at an elite level as perhaps the best pure running back in the entire league right now. And, I say pure running back because you couldn't have an argument about Christian McCaffrey, but Derrick Henry has been more durable than McCaffrey for sure over the past couple years, and I think that's really impressive for his age. Henry's absolutely shown out for Baltimore. It's been a great signing. And Jerry Jones actually said, owner of the Cowboys, he came out and said that he didn't think Derrick Henry would be doing the same thing if Dallas wouldn't got him. So that's just kind of a knock on his own team there. But the Ravens, Derrick has fit right in for them. And that's great to see. I had a couple of doubts about his fit coming into the year just because of what we'd seen out of running back convention in terms of they're typically more so on their way out of the league, if not out, by this point in the modern NFL. But Henry has absolutely proved that wrong. There's no reason to doubt him at this point. He is a great running back, really an all-timer at this point. We've just seen this longevity that you don't see in the modern NFL. He's putting up record-breaking numbers. He's had a 2,000-yard season. Derrick Henry is really an all-time running back at this point in his career. And I think we can really properly have conversations about that, whether it's due to his longevity or just really his dominance on the football field. Now, one more thing for the Ravens. This game really had an issue with injuries because we saw it for the top 2 wide receivers in Tampa. We saw it for the top wide receiver in Baltimore, in Zay Flowers. He appeared to hurt his ankle, and he was still able to get in on some of the plays throughout the rest of the game, but he was kind of rotating in and out more than he normally would. He's had a pretty good start to the year so far. Nothing groundbreaking, but he's had 100-plus receiving yards in the 2 games before this game against Tampa. And so for Zay, he was just really getting into a rhythm, much like Andrews, much like Derrick Henry. So this whole Baltimore team is really getting into their rhythm right now. However, with Zay Flowers, that rhythm also comes with an injury, and you hate to see that. You just hope it's a speedy recovery because he was able to still play. It wasn't debilitating to the point where he had to be taken out of the game and couldn't continue. And that would be a loss for Baltimore, but I feel like compared to Tampa, they are more available and ready if a wide receiver was to get hurt just because of their great running attack. But for Zay, you just wish him a speedy recovery as well, and I think he will be fine because, once again, he was able to play in this game. And maybe he could sit out a week, and that'd be good for his ankle, but in general, you should be fine with Zay Flowers throughout the rest of the season, barring any major setbacks. And for Baltimore as a whole, right? I'm talking about these guys. They're all getting into a rhythm. I think that this could very well be the year for Baltimore because it seems like they're putting it all together. They've got the great superstar addition, Derrick Henry, and not only is that good for the media headlines, it's paid off on the field as well. Lamar is finally getting back together through the air again, and this team looks legit. They've had playoff failures in the past, but this could finally be the year for the Ravens. I think they have shown that they are an improved team, and just with the addition of a guy like Derrick Henry, that takes some load off of Lamar in the playoffs potentially because you don't want Lamar to be your top passing and running threat, right? So Henry to be able to take that away from him, I think that's going to be a huge step forward in the right direction for the Baltimore Ravens. And this could really be the year that they are properly Super Bowl contenders.